Unmute myself. Done. Hello, good morning, or whatever time you're doing this, actually. Welcome to day 10. I can't believe we're on day 10. We've done it. This is so exciting. Sorry, I'll stop my celebration dance. Today we're going to look at the Marichasana sequence A to D. So there is some hip flexion, external rotation, a little bit of binding, and lots of modifications. Because they are quite complex in understanding and options, we're going to dive straight into them today. So if you have not done anything before this, it is absolutely essential that you pause me now, go back to day 1 and do the sun salutations, or even better, go to day 7 and do, no, not day 7, day 5, and do the sun salutations in the full standing. That's going to give you some, or do yesterday's sequence, that's another option, and then jump straight into this, because we're going to jump straight in from here. I have already done my daily practice today, so I'm feeling a little bit warmer and ready for the positions. So we've got Marichasana A to D. The first Marichasana position requires some hip flexion and a forward fold and a bind. So what you may need is a block, and what you may need is a belt. So to begin this position, we bend the right knee, close the hinge joint towards the body. The heel of the foot is nice and tight towards the glute, and what you want to ensure is that the outside of the foot is in line with the outer edge of the hip, creating a nice gap between the thigh and the foot. So that's absolutely crucial, because where we go from there is into a forward fold. So if your knee is in the way, you're not going to be able to forward fold. So step the foot out, the outer edge of the foot is in line with the outer edge of the hip. Good. Now I like to hold my right leg is bent, so I hold it with the opposite arm, the left arm. And then from there I inhale and lift the right arm, take the shoulder inside of the knee, and we're going to come into a forward fold. So once you're there, we have this tendency maybe for this knee to drop out towards the side. We want to hug it back in. And from here, you're just going to work on stage 1, release both hands, try and find the foot or take a belt, squeeze the knee in. And this is your stage 1 of your Marichasana. So we're working into the deep hip flexion of the right hip, and also the hamstring of the left leg, and also into the back, coming into the forward fold. Once we've got that there, maybe hold the left hand with the belt or just to the floor. From there, extend the right arm forward, turn the thumb down, and then you're going to wrap. So we want to come into internal rotation through the shoulder. That's what we're doing with the thumb coming down. And then you're going to try and wrap the arm around the outside of the leg. So that's the next stage. So to achieve that, we want to come forward, wrap into internal rotation of the shoulder, and wrap the elbow around the outside. From there, the left hand comes forward, forward, forward. And we really want to achieve that forward fold. It's going to help. Turn the thumb down, we bring the shoulder in to internal rotation once again, and then we take it behind the back, bend the elbow joint. Good. And eventually, the hands find one another, and we come into a deep forward fold. So, what are the options for this? Stage 1, bending the knee and hugging it in, working the hip flexor. Stage 1. Make sure there's space. Stage 2, shoulders inside knee, forward fold. Stage 3, squeeze the knee in, right hand behind the back. Stage 4, left hand. Maybe your hands don't meet. If that's the case, you take your belt, take it with the right hand and then the left, and create some space between the hands and work on wiggling the fingers together. Over the coming days, if you do this every day, you will get the bind. Well, hopefully. We can't promise everything. So this is Marichasana A. Good. Come out of there. Let's just try it on the other side. Bend the left knee. So let's work through this. The heel of the foot is nice and tight towards the glute. The outer edge of the left foot is in line with the outer edge of the hip. I hold it with the opposite hand, shin with the opposite hand. Come forward, forward, forward. Maybe stage 1, just coming into forward folds. Stage 2, the left thumb down, wrap it around the outside. Then the next stage, the right hand comes behind the back. If we can't find the bind, we are working on taking a belt, otherwise interlinking the fingers. And once you've got that, it's the right shoulder rolling forward and coming into a forward fold, trying to square through the shoulders. The other question I get asked a lot, okay, come up, release, well done. The other question I get asked a lot is, should my sit bones be even on the floor? And so I think we have to recognize that the sit bones are going to feel a little bit different because the legs are doing 2 different things. If you had your legs out front and one sit bone was lifted, I would say yes, both sit bones grounded to the floor. Because we're lifting and bending, I would say to begin, your sit bones won't match. So one will be higher than the other. Over time, for me, the sit bone has dropped back down and it's come back into a neutral position. So eventually, perhaps we can encourage the sit bones to be in neutral, balance between one and the other. But to start with, one sit bone is going to lift because their knee is lifted. So I hope that clears that up. So that's Marichasana A with the bind. Marichasana B involves a half lotus position. So you'll notice that in the previous sitting positions, we've worked quite deeply into externally rotating the hip, and that is so we can maybe think about coming into this position. So to begin, on the right side, you need to bend your left knee up, drop it out to the side, and it's that Ardha Baddha position. Scoop the heel up, point the toe. So if you can't do your Ardha Baddha with the foot pointed into the opposite groin, you're not going to do this, and I'm going to show you an alternative. Once it's in there nice and snug, you then bend the right knee and let that the left knee and thigh drop to the side. And then it's the same principle. We reach the right arm forward, wrap it around, take the left arm, come to the side, take the bind and forward fold, 5 breaths. So if there's any niggles in your ankle, in your knee, in your hip, when you're trying to do this in the left side, then you're not going to do it. It will come, you just need some time. And alternatively, what you do is you take the left leg underneath the right, and that is your option. So again, this from Dandasana, bend the right knee, lace the left foot underneath, and then we come into the bind from here. Okay, so let's go on to the other side. So if we want to work on the left side, we bend the right knee up first to come into half lotus. So half lotus position, draw it back, then tuck it in. And then if you've got it, you bend the left foot, drop the right thigh and knee down. No niggles, pain. Otherwise, you scoop the right foot underneath, reach forward, wrap around and take the bind, come into a forward fold. Eventually, the chin comes down to the floor. I know, madness. And then we take our 5 breaths, come up and release. Straighten out through the legs. Marichasana C. It's a lovely position, works into the thoracic spine. Starting Dandasana, legs out in front, bend the right knee. So the heel of the foot is close towards the glute muscle, and again, the foot, outer edge of the foot is in line with the outer edge of the hip. From there, the right hand comes behind you, fingertips press away. If you're finding, if you can see yourself that you're dropping back because of the proportion of the length of the arms, you can take a block to keep yourself nice and lifted. The other thing is if you're on your fingertips here, maybe take a block underneath the hand. From there, option 1, the left elbow crease hugs into the knee, and we open the chest to the side, gaze over the right shoulder. Stage 1. Stage 2, the elbow comes to the outer edge of the knee, and just lightly press the knee out against the elbow to encourage the rotation towards the back. This is stage 2. Stage 3, there is a bind. The whole time, by the way, my left toes are drawing back. There is a bind. So if you're here, what I want you to work on is drawing back and trying to get the left side of your torso across to the front of your thigh. If you feel that you've got that, then you're going to turn the palm down to work the internal rotation of the shoulder, and then close the gap between the thigh and the torso. Take it around. Good. And if you've got that, release the back hand. Find the bind, open the chest, and take the gaze behind you. I'll show you what it looks like from the other way. 5 breaths. Look forward, exhale. Release. Left side. Bend the left knee up towards the chest. Right toes draw back towards you. The same side, the left hand comes behind you. Take the block under the hand if you need. Option 1, elbow crease hugs the knee. Option 2, lift the right arm. Take the elbow to the outside of the knee. Lightly press the knee out. Take the gaze behind you to encourage the rotation. The next stage, taking the bind. So I lean back, create space. The right side of my torso squeezes tight to the thigh. Turn the palm down, wrap it around, and then release the left hand. Sit up nice and tall and take the gaze behind. Again, you could take a belt here as an option. We're getting into that lovely deep rotation through the shoulders. Inhale, look forward. Exhale, release. Good. So you've got Marichasana A, Marichasana B with the bind or taking the foot underneath. Marichasana C. Good, so it's a closed and open twist. And then we come into Marichasana D. Now Marichasana D is not going to be accessible for everybody. It's just not. And quite a lot of the time it's actually left out of the primary series. There are modifications and ways to do it, and I'm only going to teach the modification today, but I will explain how to do the full version. So it's essentially Marichasana C, taking the bind with half lotus. So if you can't do your half lotus, same principle as Marichasana D, you take the leg underneath. Right hand behind you, left hand on the outside, and then maybe take the bind from here. To go into the full variation, left foot comes into half lotus. We bend the right knee, drop the thigh and the knee down, and then hand behind you and come onto the outer edge. Coming to that twist. Now this is as far as I can get. You're meant to get into the bind. Hand comes behind the back. Unfortunately, my body makeup isn't going to allow that. I don't think ever. I've come to terms with it. But people with open hips, this may be more accessible to you, and the positioning and makeup of your hip joint. So if you do want to give it a go, maybe come into the modification first, get the bind there, and then we can attempt going into full Marichasana D. Alternatively, there's so much information on YouTube, just Google Marichasana D and it will show you if you do feel that the need to want to go a little bit deeper into it. So Marichasana D modified on the left side. You're going to bend your left knee, take the right foot, scoop it underneath. Good. And then we come into an open twist. So left hand behind you, right elbow outside. Close the gap. See if you can knock the knee in and take the bind if you like. And then we gaze behind us and take the 5 breaths. So that is the Marichasana A to D family. Quite often in a guided or led class, we would do Marichyasana A and Marichyasana C, just because they're a little bit more accessible without the deep external rotations through the hip, but that doesn't mean that B and D are any less important. So if you do have the time, you can work on it. But the reasons that we often take it out of the weekly classes is because if you haven't warmed that hip joint up, and I don't mean just 20 minutes before, I mean weeks and months before, we can cause injury to the body. And for some of you, this will be null and void because your hips are naturally open. But for me, who naturally has a slight internal rotation, and I do a little bit of running so my hips can feel tight, and I think that's more common, then we just want to pay attention to niggles in the knee, ankles and hips. And for years I had tiny niggles, but they were manageable. But in later life, maybe 7-8 years down the line, I've torn cartilage in my hip and really injured my ankles from pushing too deep. And it's only now, as I say, after sort of 10 years, that I'm beginning to understand when and what the sensations in my body are actually trying to tell me, and why I've got that need to push into poses. So Marichyasana A to D, take it nice and easy. Again, let me know if you have any questions about it or just can't get your head around it. It's a lot of coordination required for it too. And so tomorrow, what we will look at is full standing and all of the seated up to Navasana, which we'll add in tomorrow. So we're going to do all of the forward folds, the half bound positions, the internal rotation, the Janu Shashasanas, the binds, and then the core work. And this is traditionally where we would stop at a half primary series. So that will mean we're halfway through the thing. And then we've got 2 more poses after that, which is like the peak of the mountain, and then it all starts coming back down. So stick with it. Okay, let's come into our 4 last finishing poses today. Take the hands behind the back, interlink the fingers around the elbows, take your breath in through the nose, and as you exhale, forward fold. Yoga Mudra for 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Inhale, rise up, releasing the hands, index finger and thumb together. Close the eyes or a soft gaze. 10 deep Ujjayi breaths. Good. From here, working into Pluti. Now, if you would like to try for the first time, if you're finding that you can get that foot into the heel, you might want to try half lotus position or full lotus. And traditionally, we start with the right foot coming in first. So you can start with half lotus and tucking the left leg under. We'll start with that today. Otherwise, it's just cross-legged seated position. Then you're going to take your blocks. So remember, Upliti is either drawing the knees in, lifting the feet up. Otherwise, we're going to take the hands, draw the pelvic floor up, and then we're going to see if we can lift the knees towards you, and then maybe hover off the floor. This left foot's going to stay down. Once you get the bind into lotus, it becomes much easier. Hand position in between the hip and the knee, blocks on the floor, and then we're going to squeeze the knees up, and then inhale, lift the bum for 1, look forward, 2, breathe deep, 3, 4, and 5. Exhale, release. Well done. Building that strength. Think back to day 1 when it seemed like such a foreign concept, huh? From here, lie onto your backs. Well done. Take your rest. Allow the feet to be hip distance apart. Allow the hands to be by the body. Take a lovely deep inhale and exhale. Wiggle those shoulders away from the ears. Make any physical last adjustments. Stay here for a few more moments. Begin to take some deeper breaths back into your body now. Perhaps give the hands and feet a little shake. Create some rolls through the wrists. Take the breath in, stretch through the body. And when you're ready, bend the knees. Roll over to your right hand side. Very slowly, make your way back to your seated position. Taking the hands to prayer. Close the eyes, inhale, exhale with an Om. Namaste. Thank you very much. So you've just done day 10. Amazing. We're pretty much halfway there now. That's amazing. Well done. If you've got any questions about the Marichasana family, the A, B, C, and D, please let me know. We'll have a look at it as part of a sequence tomorrow. And well done. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye.